Welcome friends to the 2025 Honda Civic Hatchback Hybrid. This is the top of the line sport touring model, and I'm going to do this video kind of in a pros and cons style. But a quick introductory to this Civic Hatchback. We have three trim levels regarding the Civic Hatch. We have the entry level pure gas modeled sport hatchback, then we have the sport hybrid hatch in the middle, and then we have this top of the line sport touring hatch. I will say this, you are rewarded immensely for stepping up to this hybrid powertrain setup, because not only is this delivering to you 200 horsepower and 232 pounds-feet of torque, you're also getting a much more refined powertrain as well, much smoother in the real world. And believe it or not, from 0 to 60, according to Car and Driver, the hybrids are a bit quicker than the Civic Si. Civic Si did 0 to 60 in about 6.6 seconds. These hybrid models between 6.2 and 6.3. Now I get it, 0 to 60 in the 6-second range, that's not exactly earth-shattering or life-altering, but trust me, there's more to it than just those basic specs. You really have to get behind the wheel to understand what I'm talking about, because it's the way this vehicle delivers its power, which gives you an almost luxury car experience. So the first few pros are actually going to encompass a lot of the driving attributes. And starting with the drivetrain, for you to understand what makes this hybrid great, you have to kind of understand the way it works. And I can also do a separate video as a deep dive onto how this hybrid works in more detail. If you're interested in watching that video, comment below. But the basic summary is we have this 2-liter naturally aspirated Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine, and we have 2 electric motors. Now this is not a all-wheel drive vehicle. All of these Civics are front-wheel drive. But out of those 2 electric motors, one of them performs like a generator, and the other electric motor serves as your propulsion motor. And the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, that's also serving as a generator as well. But the 4-cylinder can actually power the wheels during highway or high-speed driving. Okay, but otherwise, this vehicle is trying to do its best to charge up the battery pack in order to operate off of its electric propulsion system to offer you basically an electric car driving experience. And that's why this feels so ultra refined to drive, almost luxury car-like. And I mentioned how the 0 to 60 time, that only tells part of the story. Well, in your everyday drive, when you just step on your throttle, you have instantaneous thrust. So although something like a Mazda 3 Turbo can do 60 quicker in about 5.5 seconds, this hybrid offers us a similar level of thrust off the line, and that's why the numbers don't really matter. It's the way this vehicle feels in the real world that counts. This vehicle is also trying to mimic gears, and it does that rather well. But when you're driving this like a lunatic and you're trying to brake torque this, at that point, this vehicle will actually hold on to the higher revs, similar to a traditional CVT. But otherwise, in normal driving, it will kind of quote-unquote upshift. And as you can see, even when you have your foot down all the way, that engine sound, it's not raspy or obnoxious. It is a smooth engine tone, something that a lot of compact cars can't seem to get right. And even out on the highway, if you need to pass someone, you have enough power to do that as well. 200 horses, 232 pounds-feet of torque. That's good power output for a vehicle that weighs about 3,280-ish pounds. These hybrids, they weigh about 300 pounds more than its ICE counterparts. But of course, out on the highway, you are sacrificing some of that top-end power. Like, you're not going to be easily reaching triple-digit speeds, nor does that matter in everyday driving, especially in the United States. Everything you need this vehicle to do practically out on the road, it does it, and it does it exceptionally well, while offering 50 mpg in the city. Fuel economy, that's a big pro, because of course it is with the hybrid, but the reality is there are other compact vehicles that deliver really great fuel efficiency. People have commented in my videos, they've purchased Hyundai Elantras, Kia Fortes, and they've gotten nearly 50 mpg out of those 4-cylinder CVT/IVT setups. So the 4-cylinder in conjunction with the CVT, that's always delivered customers with a really efficient package. Because this is a hybrid, you don't necessarily have to hypermile this, and you don't have to chase that 50 mpg. The vehicle will kind of deliver that to you quite effortlessly. And of course, you can utilize regular fuel. But it's the quickness, the fluid nature, and refined power delivery of this hybrid that makes me fall in love with it. Fuel economy is, of course, the icing on top of all of this. Okay, now let's move on from that. Let's talk about some other things like refinement and ride quality. I've actually driven the pure ICE model of the Civic sedan when that first came out in 2022, and this vehicle, it's quieter still. You know why? That's because these hybrids utilize the active noise control system, so it helps this vehicle to isolate out some unwanted frequencies. And the active noise control is something that you do not get with the pure ICE models of the Civics. You have to get this hybrid, and it doesn't matter if you go with the Sport or the Sport Touring. Okay, but when you go with the Sport Touring, this top of the line model, you also get the noise reducing wheels, similar to what you get with the Accord hybrid. But both hybrids come with the acoustic laminated windshield, something that the regular ICE model does not come with. That's crazy to me, but it's true. That's what the official Honda spec sheet says. So no matter what in the hatchback family, the hybrids are going to be your most refined choice. The Sport Touring just takes it up one more level with the noise reducing wheels. And it's true both in the city and out on the highway. This vehicle, it's not ridiculously noisy. Honda could take this one step further by offering us a bit more insulation for the underbody, because you do get some road noise coming through, especially out on the highway. But overall, this is not bad at all for this class. I would say that the Mazda 3 is just a tad bit quieter still, which is really impressive. But it's not substantially quieter, if that makes sense. This is still really good for what this is. Also, out on the highway, I had this thing up to really high speeds. The stability is excellent, even during wind gusts, mind you. You can also thank the fact that, you know, these Civics, they ride rather low, so that will naturally help the stability compared to, you know, an SUV, for instance, which sits up higher. So the refinement of the Civic is rather high, but also the ride quality, they've really nailed it here. This is dampened so well. I've had this vehicle over speed bumps, and this Civic hatch, it just absorbs that so well. We have 18-inch wheels wrapped in 235 wide tires, and that's the exact wheel and tire setup that you get across the board for all of the hatchbacks. But yeah, I was just shocked at the plushness of this Civic hatch. It is so good the way they have this tuned. Refinement, ride quality, big pro right there. Not to mention, handling is also really good here. Despite this weighing about 300 pounds more than the ICE counterparts, you don't really feel that, and you don't feel like you're being punished for driving this hybrid. This feels nimble and agile. Not to mention the confidence behind the wheel, top tier. And it achieves all of this while being natural and satisfying to drive. Like, this is not a boring driving experience. All of the inputs feel great, from the throttle, the steering, and even the brakes, really good. Plus, if you're driving this in like a mountain-like area and you want to access quote-unquote engine braking, well, you can sort of do that here by pulling on these paddles. It essentially allows you to manipulate the regenerative braking, so you're not just cooking the brakes on mountain drives. You can rely on that regenerative braking to help you out. And you can lock in that regenerative braking function by putting this vehicle into its sport mode. But before we move on to the interior space, are there any cons in driving the Honda Civic hybrid hatchback? To be honest, not really. This is doing everything so well. You could argue that something like a Mazda 3 offers a bit more of a premium driving experience, like it feels a bit more luxury-like, but it's such a moot point because the Civic is such a great package overall. Not to mention, I'm really reaching when I say that. It doesn't feel that much more premium. It's just a bit quieter than this. So overall, I gotta say, no real cons with the drive. Let's move on to the interior space now. Okay, now that we are stopped, let's talk about this interior space. Certainly many aspects of the interior also serve as a pro. For instance, the solidity of this cabin is excellent. No real creaks or rattles going on here. Yes, this is a predominantly plastic interior space, but the way it's put together is great. Once again, I would give the interior edge to something like a Mazda 3. I believe the Mazda is offering the most plush and luxurious interior for the class. But once again though, the Civic wins as an overall package, and you're about to see why, because we have a great seating position. Seeing all throughout this vehicle is rather easy. Side mirrors do a great job. You have so much space and adjustability in these front seats here, and apparently you only get this really adjustable electric driver's seat when you go with the Sport Touring model. And a lot of the cons that you're going to be seeing with this Civic, it's going to be in regard to how Honda has their trim levels set up. They really punish you for going with the more base model vehicles. But anyway, front seat driver adjustability, it's great. I mean, I'm 5'11", you can be much shorter and you can be much taller and still be comfortable in this Civic. Not to mention, the rear legroom is rather good in here. You don't feel punished for sitting in the back of this vehicle. Granted, once you start getting to 6'2" territory and up, then the rear seats will become a bit more constricted, but that's really not bad for a vehicle in the compact car segment. The big highlight here, though, is with the hatchback trunk area. That's the big pro here, and that's when this Civic really becomes the ultimate daily driver package. You get this hatchback with the hybrid setup. I mean, wow, at this point you have very little incentive to stepping up to almost anything else. SUVs and even entry-level luxury cars, you really don't need to do that when you get this hybrid hatchback Civic, because that trunk area, it's rather deep, and both with the seats up or down, this offers more trunk capacity than something like a Prius, the new Toyota Prius that's been redesigned. Yeah, this is more spacious than that. Not to mention, this drives better and offers a more fluid driving experience compared to the Prius. So yeah, once you have the seats down, I mean, you have SUV levels of practicality here. Even with the seats up, I mean, it's really tremendous. So big pro there. But a real con regarding the Honda Civic, this is a rather low slung vehicle, and that's great for driving. But both this Civic and the Accord, they are rather low slung. So if you have issues getting in and out of vehicles like this, it's just something to watch out for and something for you to check out at a dealership for yourself. We do have rather comfortable leather seats with this top touring trim, but one subtle con with these seats would be the lack of lumbar adjustment for the driver. At least it would have been nice to see. Granted, these seats are pretty plush and pretty comfortable, so it's not a big deal, but you can only get these leather seats with the top touring trim. And many things are bespoke only to this touring trim level, and that's unfortunate. For instance, the sunglass holders that we have here, you can only get that with this Sport Touring, and I'm not making that up. It's on Honda's official spec sheet. You also get the larger 9-inch infotainment screen here with the Sport Touring. The other models in the hatchback family get a 7-inch screen, and if you want the wireless Apple CarPlay and the wireless Android Auto, that's right, you have to step up to the Touring trim level. Touring also gets us the wireless phone charger as well. Other models won't get these features, but you will get wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And this rather good Bose audio system is once again only available with this Sport Touring trim level. And is this a good audio system? I would say yes, but I'll say that the Mazda Bose audio system does sound a bit better to me. I'm not an audiophile, so I don't know the exact terminology to use, but to my ears, this Bose audio in the Honda Civic sounds a bit more hollow, I guess, compared to the Mazda audio system. The Mazda Bose sounds a bit more fuller and richer to me. Granted, this is still very good and easily one of the best audio systems that you can get within the compact car segment. So not a big complaint, but just want to mention that a lot of these excellent features are bespoke to the Touring trim level. And there's about a $3,000 difference between a sport hybrid hatchback and this Sport Touring hatchback. Is it worth spending that additional $3,000? I would say yes. I usually don't like saying that. Typically, I like to save as much money as possible with these compact cars, but this vehicle is so good and you really unlock the full potential of this when you step up to this Sport Touring, that I do think that it's worth paying up to get this model. Plus, you also get the leather-wrapped steering wheel with this top-of-the-line model. It's really great to grip onto. Fortunately, you do get all of the important safety tech features as standard. That's a big pro. I mean, safety in general is a big pro regarding the new Civic. You get the blind spot monitoring, the rear cross traffic alert, and these vehicles are, of course, an IIHS top safety pick, so it's genuinely one of the safest new compacts that you can put your family in. Big pro there. I also like the simplicity of the technology here. Infotainment is easy to use. We have separate buttons and switches for the HVAC, brilliant, and it's best to utilize the automatic mode for the HVAC so the vehicle can best optimize the HVAC and to not have the engine cut on unnecessarily, so you can optimize your fuel efficiency. We also get a easy to use digital gauge cluster, again, only for the top of the line sport touring trim level. Some subtle cons: despite this being the top of the line model, we're still missing some premium features that would be nice to see, like cooled/ventilated seats, maybe a 360 camera, that would be cool, and perhaps a electronic liftgate for the rear. Right now you have to physically open the liftgate yourself. I would say that for a vehicle in this class, the overall cubby spaces are a pro. Glove box is a bit on the smaller side, but it's okay. The center armrest and the door pockets do a good job, and you have two rather large cup holders in the middle. Once again, the rear seating comfort and headroom is rather good, but a con with the hybrids is we don't get a spare tire in the back of this hybrid hatch. We only get a tire repair kit with the hybrids. So those are pretty much all of your pros and cons. This is seriously such a well thought out machine. I mean, I kind of want to give this vehicle an award. You know, I want to start my own Meyn Motor Group award system, go to Hobby Lobby, get some plastic trophies, and I want to give this vehicle an award. That's how good this new Civic hybrid hatchback is. And yes, this car really reaches its full potential in the exact trim level and body style that you see here. Hybrid hatch. That's when you get, you know, SUV levels of practicality and storage, amazing fuel efficiency, but more importantly, clean fluid power delivery. The vehicle feels like a full EV to drive for the most part, but it still feels natural. So you and your family don't really need to go into generational debt by buying vehicles that are above this Civic hatch, because you're quickly going to realize that stepping up from this is only going to get you diminishing returns. That's just how good this Civic hybrid hatch is. So as you can see, I've been gushing over this vehicle. I think this is the best car in the segment. Mazda 3 is still very good, but it's a cramped vehicle, very little space both in the trunk and in the second row for occupants to sit in. This is just the better, more efficient vehicle and more spacious. The only real con is Honda really forces you to step up to this top of the line trim to get the most out of this vehicle. If you go out and you drive base model Hondas, you're going to notice that they are much louder and much more crude compared to the top tier trim levels. And usually I like to share with my audience ways on how they can save money with new vehicles, and you can certainly do that with other manufacturers like Nissan, Mazda, Toyota, etc. by going to AutoCompanion.com. I'll leave a link to his website down below. This is a company that I am affiliated with, and he does offer Honda deals as well, but not necessarily on Civics and Accords as of now. He just has some Honda deals on Passports, Ridgelines, and base model CRVs. So if you want one of these hybrid Civics, you're going to have to try and negotiate on your own. There are some dealerships offering these cars slightly above invoice. The invoice to MSRP on these vehicles, there's about a $2,000 delta. A lot of dealerships I've seen offer about $1,300 to $1,500 off the MSRP. That's pretty good as long as you're not paying any additional junk fees like nitrogen fees, tint fees, etc. So, I mean, any discount that you can get on this hybrid, it's just going to make this an even better value than what it already is. These vehicles, they go for about $33,000. Again, about $3,000 more than the regular sport hybrid hatch. You can also get the hybrid system in the sedan as well, and you're saving about $1,100 compared to the hatches. But again, the hatch is what makes this complete with that SUV-like practicality. So that's my complete look at the 2025 Honda Civic hybrid hatchback. If you found value with this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching. Take care and goodbye.